Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. It has been some time since I spoke upon doing this presentation on the Haftarah portion of the portion Re'eh. It has been some time, as stated. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, we want to get this done, get this accomplished, and move on. When I say move on, brothers and sisters, I'm talking about getting the information out there to the people for edification purposes. This channel, Moreh Yeshiah Torah Lessons, is going to be in part dedicated to bringing out this information on the Haftarah portions as was discussed upon this channel in the past. I ask you all to subscribe to the channel, brothers and sisters. Like, comment, and share. Please let me know what you think. Thank you. All right. We are going to, brothers and sisters, go to the brand. Just want to show that there in that case. Okay. And we're going to, brothers and sisters, pull up the PowerPoint for edification purposes. We're going to be reading in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 11 through Isaiah 55, verse 5. Giving honor to the Most High. This presentation is based on a reading in the book of Isaiah. We ask you all to subscribe to the channel. We will be reading in Isaiah 54, 11 through 55, verse 5. O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest, and not comforted, behold, I will set thy stones in fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires. And I will make thy pinnacles of rubies, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy border of precious stones. What is this speaking of, brothers and sisters? It is about the one that is afflicted and not comforted, tossed with tempest, like the sea, you may say, when it is in a tempest mode, not at peace, not still, not calm, if you will. Affliction on the house of Israel that happened from the other nations and from within Israel itself. O thou afflicted, tossed with tempest and not comforted, behold, I will set thy stones in fair colors and lay thy foundations with sapphires. The foundations of a people is what a people will stand on. If the foundation is not strong, the people will not be strong and eventually will not be in that case. So what we're reading in the book of Isaiah, brothers and sisters, here is about the stones in fair colors and lay up your foundations with sapphires, is that Israel is going to be rebuilt as their former estate and better, to where they will find comfort in that case. And I will make thy pinnacles of rubies, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy border of precious stones. If we know, brothers and sisters, as we're going to show in this, that the breastplate of the priest had some of those stones in it, such as the rubies and a carbuncle and the sapphire and so forth and so on, which you see on the right side in part shows some of that kind of imagery in that case. So instead of being afflicted and not comforted, the foundation is going to be made sure, and the gates thereof sure, and the border sure. Having a sense of security is very, very important, brothers and sisters. And this is what the book of Isaiah is talking about in this case. The Ruach, or the spirit that is not comforted, doesn't like to be greeted in such manner, similar to the way Joseph's brothers treated him, if you will. It says in the book of Genesis, they could not speak peaceably with him or to him. Similar to, if we may say, the way David's brothers was toward him. Oh, you just come to see the battle. Brothers and sisters, when a people are not united, when they are tossed with tempests and not comforted, when they are afflicted in spirit, misery loving company will sit there and spread that kind of poison. So what we read right here, brothers and sisters, in the book of Isaiah, it says that the stones will be with fair colors and the foundations with sapphires, pinnacles of rubies and gates of carbuncles, and a border of precious stones. So that way he or she that is not comforted could begin to see things in a brighter way, in a nicer way, in a more comforting way. Brothers and sisters, there are those that this book directly will talk about. And if you find yourself in that position of affliction, not comforted, and somebody hoping, wishing, praying, advising bothers you, may the Most High bless you and give you a comforting spirit, because there must be something wrong if a good word does not make you feel uplifted. And that's the situation with us as a people. This book is talking about us as a people, brothers and sisters. These are things we want to sit there and emphasize and highlight when we talk about it. Not just go over it because it's the set aside portion for a portion, but showing brothers and sisters how you can show it to relating to life. Next slide. Isaiah 54, verse 13 to 14. And all thy children shall be taught of Yah, and great shall be the peace of your children. And righteousness shalt thou be established. Be thou far from oppression, for thou shalt not. Be thou far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from ruin, for it shall not come near thee. So, brothers and sisters, what we can gather, what we can ascertain, what we can see, brothers and sisters, in this particular case, is the children are the focused in this particular part, where it says, "In all thy children shall be taught of the Most High." What are the children being taught of in these days and times? They are being taught subjects that may or may not directly relate to his or her spirit before they get to college and be able to pick what major or minor they want to be in, brothers and sisters. In certain cases, they are being taught about sexual things that children need not be exposed to at a certain time. Certainly before the age of 18 or 19, once it comes down to talking about certain things. What are the children being taught? That it is good to be a child. Not so much that it is good to be a good child, but that it is good to be a child. The mindset of Forever 21, the mindset of like that magazine 17, and the mindset of, quote, the fountain of youth, so to speak. Never wanting to mature in a particular case, to become an elder in mindset, case in point. I remember there was a child that was either 13 or 14, if I remember right, 13. And he had taken tests for college and passed them. And people were saying, well, what about him being a child and having a childhood? That is a problem. Because what you have just done was stifling the child's growth mentally. You taught that child should be a child and not a person, because children are people that should excel as far as his or her ability. You said and taught that child that he or she should stay, quote, in a child's place. While we know good and well, brothers and sisters, that there were prophets of ancient Israel that were of a certain age, being in their teens, that you had kings in Israel or Israel that were in their teens. Correct me if I'm wrong. King Uzziah of Judah began to reign when he was 16. When you read the Willie Lynch letter, and that is one of oppression, brothers and sisters, it talks about the matter of the age. And with our people of whom Isaiah is addressing, we see between even us as adults with men and women, one of the first pinnacle things they look at is not the mindset, brothers and sisters, but the age. How old are you? And then they base, not in character, but they base a synopsis on the age. Knowing if we read the Willie Lynch letter, that, brothers and sisters, is what the oppressors use as a catalyst. So have we dealt with each other as men and women and dealt with our children according to the mindset of the oppressors? Yes, we have. So now when we see each other in our 30s, 40s, and 50s, and it becomes a thing where we are not confident, where we are oppressed, where we are afflicted, we begin to see why we continue that cycle. So the comforting words in Isaiah and what is being spoken of is in this part going to focus on the children being taught of the Most High. And great shall be the peace of your children. That is something that we are supposed to want to have. I spoke on this channel about impart manners, being able to say good evening, good morning, good night, and so forth and so on. He or she who is not confident in his or her spirit cannot understand why that's said on a regular basis. Just as much, almost certain, Boquer Tob was not said to Joseph by his brothers in the house of Jacob. There's a movie, of course, you know, you just got to understand the children that we see in a picture is how the sons of Jacob and the children of Jacob looked. Certainly a complexion of nothing else. And in that movie, the person playing Joseph said to Jacob, his father, remember your brother Esau. I have 10 Esau's. Most of our oppression is internal, not external. So now when we read in verse 14, in righteousness shalt thou be established. So, brothers and sisters, it tells you in the scriptures, if you want to see the fall of your enemy, keep the commandments of the Most High, brothers and sisters. It tells you that in the scriptures itself, in Psalms chapter 81. You understand? So in that case, we're going to pull it back up in a second. In that case, brothers and sisters, we have to know, have to understand, have to be able to ascertain that we must be our own resources. We must be our own supporters. And we're going to talk about that in this particular fashion. 1 second, please. Shalom. Sarah Michaela. Shalom, sweetheart. Shalom, my lady. How are you doing? We're going to pull the PowerPoint back up, brothers and sisters. And in this, and continuing what we were talking about, it says, in righteousness shalt thou be established, knowing already that most problems are from internal, be it internal within a people or internal within a person. We see why Isaiah is saying, in righteousness you shall be established. Our wickedness, our unrighteousness is what the nations feed on in order for our oppression to continue, in order for our discomfort to continue. So if we want to talk about these gems and these stones and sapphire and carbuncles and rubies and so forth, brothers and sisters, it's letting us know that that's going to be established in righteousness. We cannot bring it into our people, brothers and sisters. We cannot continue in the same vein of not teaching our children. And what we are instilling in our children is that they need not get along one with another in certain cases. Brothers and sisters, where the children are told, this is mine and that's yours. And finders keepers, losers reapers. Whereas in the laws of the Most High, if you find something, you know it's not yours, and somebody comes to claim it, you're supposed to give it back. So that's in Deuteronomy 22. Are our children being taught that? Brothers and sisters. The picture that you see there on the side, showing the Hebrew and the children that are there and so forth, is showing in part about children being taught of the Most High. Some may say, well, Hebrew, brothers and sisters, is not a requirement. And as a commandment, no, it is not. But the commandments were given in Hebrew. As a Hebrew teacher, my suggestion is learn the words that you say all the time, and your vocabulary will increase. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Be thou far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from ruin, for it shall not come near thee. When, brothers and sisters, we are dealing in righteousness one with another and becoming established and having these precious stones as our way and sapphire as a foundation, Salika, excuse me, we would have nothing to fear. We didn't got to sit there and worry about the ruin. In in Proverbs 31, when it speaks about the certain type of virtuous woman, it says she laughs of the time to come, for her house is clothed with scarlet. So in other words, in Proverbs 31, what it's saying is that she has already established certain things. So she doesn't have the fear of ruin. She doesn't have the fear of the oppression, because she, being wise, has already ordered certain things and so forth. Did not let things say go by osmosis, if you will. Was able to take the bull by the horns and cause things to happen. These are things we want to emphasize, brothers and sisters. Your children shall be taught of the Most High. The nations taught the children religion, not of the Most High. Brothers and sisters, we have, as pointed out on the channel yesterday in Shomrei Habrit, the spirit of the warrior has been transformed to the spirit of the gangster. And that right there is not good. So the reverse must happen, brothers and sisters. Excuse me. We have to set that mark for such to be. But in righteousness is how things are going to be established. Let us go on, brothers and sisters. Isaiah 54, 15 through 16. Behold, they may gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather together against thee shall fall because of thee. So do you see why, brothers and sisters, we're in the Old Testament? Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals, that bloweth the fire of coals, and bringeth forth a weapon for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. The Most High is letting us know that he has the things in his hand already. So, as we're going to read, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. So even though they come together against you, it is not by the sanctioning of the Most High. Why did I show the breastplate there that shows the different things showing the tribes of Israel in that case? When you start, brothers and sisters, and I want to show this, if we will, with the laser pointer. You have Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. Brothers and sisters, Reuben, Shimon, Lewi, Yehuda, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Yissaschar, Zebulun, Yosef, Benjamin. So when we get into this kind of matter, and it talks about being in comfort, and it talks about brothers and sisters, the sapphire, which is the symbol for Dan, the ruby, which is the symbol for Judah. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, or anything else on this presentation. What we can gather and understand is that the unity is going to be coming back to us as a people. And is going to have to start by teaching the children. The lack of communication that Israel has is horrible. Even though you got the internet, you got WhatsApp, you got all kinds of means of communication. The communication in righteousness and in peace within the Israelite community, if you will, is horrible. Saying good morning bothers some people. Saying good night bothers some people. Some people just say morning, night, and just forget the good altogether. So when we get into this kind of matter, brothers and sisters, we can see, and it's not to play prophet, 2/3 of Israel is not going to make it. Because if we, as the children of the Most High, refuse to talk to one another, what makes you think our Father will want to hear us? If the Most High, our Father, were to mark iniquity, who will stand? None of us. But yet we want to talk to the Father, but we have a problem talking to one another, as if the Most High only exists on the Shabbat. That's how you know, as it says in Jeremiah, is Israel a homeborn slave? In certain cases, yes. Because if you only meet the day you told to do no work, how can our foundations be made with sapphires? How can we not think that oppression and ruin will come. When there is a deliberate way, I ain't talking to him, I ain't talking to her, and then we let it spill to another generation. And then our children look at us like we dropped the ball. And we think that's cool. I say to the Old Testament Israelite community, many of us have adopted the New Testament way of when in Rome, do like the Romans. Give to Caesar what Caesar's and give to God what's God's. Not being into the New Testament, many of us have adopted that concept. Excuse me. By how we deal one with another. The Most High has given us. But we argue about the us in Genesis 1:26. When it tells you in Genesis 1:27, the Most High made man in his image. So, brothers and sisters, by righteousness, Yisrael will be established, and not by any other way. The lack of trust, the lack of respect, the lack of unity, and then the coming together of solemn assembly, like it says in Isaiah 1, the Most High said his soul cannot tolerate it, cannot deal with it. If we are at odds and come together online or offline or in person or out person, excuse me, on Shabbat, we have just made church on Saturday. That's what we have done. And many times when Israel asks, oh, do they do law? What they're asking is, do you wear fringes? And do you sit there and not work on Saturday? That's essentially what they're asking. When they say, do you do law? Or does she do law? Or does he do law? They're not asking, do you love your neighbor as yourself? They're not asking, did you honor your father and your mother? They're not asking, did you diligently teach your children when you rose up and when you lie down? Their thing is, did you give me a view on YouTube and buy my book? That, in many cases, is what Israel has become, sadly, once it comes down to the statement of, did you know he or she was a law keeper? So the mentality where Israel has become more Shabbat observant in certain cases, not understanding if you don't get certain things done in the 6 days as a people, the things that you do on Shabbat will violate it because then you feel forced to have to handle certain things. Excuse me. But with lack of communication, tossed with tempest, afflicted, not comforted, that's what happens. So we have to come together, brothers and sisters. Next slide. Isaiah 54, verse 17. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Most High, and their due reward for me, saith Yah. Do you know, sadly, there are some who think coming out on Shabbat is doing the service of the Most High. I want to state this. I've heard this growing up in Israel, among the Israelite community. I served the Most High because I came out to a camp on the Shabbat. not understanding, brothers and sisters, that Yah created the Shabbat and the days before it. Excuse me. So are we to think, brothers and sisters, that the Most High is a Sabbath God? Or is he the one, as he described himself? I have created the smith that bloweth the fire of coals and bring forth the weapon for his work. I have created the waster to destroy. So we have to understand, brothers and sisters, why Israel as a people have not advanced. Why 10, 20, 30 years and more in the understanding of Israel. Certain things have not come to fruition. Is because we taught ourselves that we did servants to the Most High because we came out to a place while the place suffers from bills on the Sabbath. We have marginalized our service that is due to the Most High to just the Shabbat. It says, he who does work on the Shabbat day shall be cut off from among his people, shall be put to death. It says, he becometh poor that dealeth with the slack hand. It says in the rules of the Sabbath, 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. So, brothers and sisters, if we are not interdependent and working with each other, if we are not showing the rites, R-I-T-E-S, the ceremonial things, if you will, of righteousness, how can we expect carbuncles, rubies, precious stones, sapphire, and things of that kind of nature when we okay going from one generation to the other without getting along? So you can see, brothers and sisters, the generational curses that would lead the prophet to say, and all thy children shall be taught of the Most High. And in Zechariah later on, it goes to say that 2/3 of Israel shall be cut off. Because the older generation did not instill, in many cases, in the younger generation, what Israel is supposed to do. Some elders were jealous of their children, brothers and sisters, and kept knowledge from them that could have caused the children to advance. This is why we read the book where it says the Most High will multiply us and make us better than our forefathers. Abraham would have not been jealous of Isaac. Isaac would have not been jealous of Jacob. It was the spirit that Reuben to Zebulun had that was jealous of Joseph. And you see, no disrespect intended. While it speaks upon the matter that we talked about, afflicted, tossed with tempest, and not comforted. Excuse me, brothers and sisters. In that case, we cannot act like everything is hunky-dory or told me old or okay when it's not. We cannot, brothers and sisters, portray a facade. And this is how we know that the Tanakh, brothers and sisters, is not a religious book where everything becomes romanticized. It talks about your future becoming nicer than your present state, because the author knows your present state is not comfortable. But we have to set that tone, brothers and sisters. But if we have issues with each other as something as simple as Boker Tov, good morning, that's a problem. That is a big problem. Because unless the Most High is coming down like he did in the time in Exodus or in the time in the angel in the book of Joshua, we are on a human level each other's most valuable resources. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Yah. It extends beyond just keeping the Shabbat. It means that you don't stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. It means that when your brother or sister is in need of something and you're able to do it, whatever the situation is in righteousness, you help out. I'm not going to name names, but I remember a situation where I had some electronics, right? And I really didn't know how to really work the electronics with the high-tech things. Like my little princess says, I'm a dinosaur. So I'm there trying to push the buttons to try to find out how to fix it. And there's a brother that I knew who was very good with that kind of stuff. So he came in, he showed me what to do. And this is not to toot one's horn, but I paid the brother for it, for his time and for teaching me. So now I got the knowledge of it. You know, somebody sat there and said to me, you paid him for that? That's why we go nowhere as a people. In general, because we're surprised that somebody did something as a service to another brother in due respect and was given compensation monetarily, in this case, for one's time. Was I just supposed to have the person come from his house to my house, work on something to teach me something, and say, Shalom, Ak, take care? Is that how we do one with another? Mind you, the person who said to me, you paid him for that, I didn't ask that person to contribute to the payment. But the mentality when we are not even comforted in spirit and we don't think that we are each other's most valuable resources and that we should be as a people interdependent and have, as we're going to read on about the situation with David and our own empire, if we will, if we just keep on taking and taking and taking and taking and never putting back whatever it may be, monetarily, good advice, wisdom, instruction, even raw rebuke, whatever it is, if you don't give anything back, but you just taking and taking, expect it to fall. Expect what Isaiah talks about, the opposite happening when that affliction and that ruin will come. Expect such a thing to come to pass. We were actually, as a people, surprised that a brother paid somebody for helping him do a service. Was I just supposed to, as I asked, just continue to take without saying, thank you, you looked out for me for that, I appreciate it, thank you for your time? Or are we as a people time wasters of our own people? From man to woman, woman to man, brother to brother, sister to sister. Are we each other's time wasters, hoping something would be and playing games all along? So before we start to talk about no weapon forming against us will prosper, before those kind of things, we want to emphasize in righteousness shalt thou be established. Be thou far from oppression. It is oppressive to have a brother or sister do a service for you and you give them no compensation. That is what happened with us in slavery. We weren't paid for our service, what we did. So who, brothers and sisters, do we think we are to do the same thing one to another? See, brothers and sisters, we're not going to talk about paying people on the Shabbat. So that's why teachings on Shabbat is different than maybe when it's not Shabbat. You understand? If you have the ability to help and it says do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor, then what do you think you're supposed to do? I'm going to say this. Any man or woman who is okay with just taking from brothers and sisters and never giving restitution, never giving any recompense, not even asking how he or she can be of a help, is part of the oppressing team. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. This is the heritage of the servants of the Most High. Excuse me. And their due reward from me, saith Yah. So don't tell me we do things and hope for nothing in return in that new book of the New Testament. It says right there, the heritage of the servants of Yah and their due reward. So the things you do come back. But when you have the spirit of the taker, you don't ever intend to give anything back. Hence, Zechariah speaks of the 2/3. Next slide. Isaiah 55, 1-2. Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye for water. And he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Yea, come, buy wine and milk without money, without price. Wherefore do ye spend money for that which is not bread, and your gain for that which satisfieth not? Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good, and let your soul delight itself in fatness. What is wrong with being delighted? Brothers and sisters, what is wrong with being satisfied? How long must we talk about being oppressed as if that's our story? Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the taunt of men, neither be ye dismayed at their revilings. The people in whose heart is my law. They're Torah only. Those are Torah only people. Well, if you ain't only about the Torah, then what else are you about? Because the Torah, it says this is your wisdom and your understanding. So we have to understand the disrespectful snap, such as, oh, those are Torah only people, when we just read the people in whose heart is my law. Brothers and sisters, in the law, as we continuously talk on this channel, it says, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. You're not supposed to be in a position to help and deliberately don't do it. While, brothers and sisters, we make sure we teach, sadly, our children the same thing. You know, I was told from a female to teach my daughter that boys are nasty. I'm not teaching my daughter that boys are nasty. My daughter will not think a female will be her companion in life, if you get where I'm going. That mentality, brothers and sisters, of passing those mental plagues and generational curses to the next generation will not be, brothers and sisters. Hence, Zechariah talks about the 2/3. Next slide. Incline thy ear and come unto me, hear, and your soul shall live. And I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Behold, I have given him for a witness to the peoples, a prince and commander to the peoples. And my servant David shall be king over them. And they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my ordinances and observe my statutes and do them. Ezekiel 37. Brothers and sisters, what is the point in that citation there in Ezekiel? Speaking about David and showing, brothers and sisters, the breastplate that's worn within the house of the Levites. To break down the spiritual and political system of the Israelites, they had to attack the Levites and the house of David. I state again, to break down the spiritual and the political system of the house of Israel. They had to, brothers and sisters, speak against that of the tribe of the Levites, the priesthood, and the house of David, where the kingship lies. This is why in the new book of that New Testament, the Levites don't get no respect like that in the Levitical priesthood. The rulership that would come from David was replaced with that of JC in the New Testament. So we can begin to see, brothers and sisters, when it says, incline your ear and come unto me, hear, and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. We have to understand we are each other's most valuable resources. We cannot continue as a people the way we are and expect our generation as adults to not be part of the 2/3. It's not a competition from camp to camp, because the number of those saved and the number of those destroyed is not determined. It just says 1/3 there and 2/3 there. But with the number of Israelites on the rise and with the number of Israelites decreasing, who's to say what specific amount of people will be in those 2/3 or 1/3? So the best thing we need to do is do right by each other before we meet someone like Joseph, when he says, I'm your brother Joseph, whom you sold to the Egyptians. And in Genesis, it says the men cannot answer him a word. Oh boy. Oh boy. We don't want the gas face that Joseph's brothers had when he told them who he was. So when we do wrong to each other, man to woman, woman to man, brother to brother, sister to sister, do know that that one who you oppressed and afflicted, if he or she goes before the Most High and his or her ears inclined and they get that peace from the Most High, where do you find yourself? In layman terms, as they used to say in the 1990s, there's no future in your fronting. Next slide. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou knowest not, and a nation that knew not thee, shall run unto thee, because of the Lord thy God, and for the Holy One of Israel, for he has glorified thee. Behold, thou shalt call a nation that thou knowest not, and a nation that knew not thee shall run unto thee. As my lady tells me, we have to be that light. Brothers and sisters, giving honor and praise unto the Most High, creator, maker of heaven and earth. Subscribe to the channel. Hopefully it was understood. Let me know what you think in the comments. Shalom.